So I think just breathe that in. Just resonate with that sacredness that has graced us this morning through that vibration and that music. As I said, the title or the message today is about the body. Next week's going to be really good. It's about sex. So, yeah. And Reverend Carrie Masters is going to be the guest speaker, so I'm sure it's going to be really fun and enjoyable. And if you're really nice to her, and if you ask her, she'll probably lead you in a square dance. And she likes to call square dance. But today is about the body. Today is about recognizing this vehicle that we use to move about in this physical experience in this life on this planet, in this earth. And in the journal, it begins, it says, the body is not an apology. And if you kind of think about that, and if you understand where they're going with this, that particularly in today's world, but I think for many years, and probably generations and centuries, this has been going on, that we have a maybe a misunderstanding of the body in which we use, the vehicle in which we are experiencing this life, and that we're not always sure how to approach it and how to appreciate it and understand what it's there for. And I know that in the media and the advertisement and all of the commercialism that's going on, they often want us to see our body as something that's not whole, perfect, and complete, that it's something that's in need of whatever. You know, that there's always something more that needs to be done in order to create this appearance that it looks like perfection. And then, of course, it's about, well, whose idea of perfection? And we get really mixed up in this understanding of the body. And one of the things that I want to tie into this, that because this month is a month in which we are also celebrating Black History Month, that there's a very clear example about how we have, as a culture and as a society, that we've taken the color of our skin as something that is less than or wrong or different or unacceptable, and we're not really opening up to and answering that universal spirit, that divine idea that each and every one of us is right and perfect, just the way that we are. In Science of Mind, in our teaching and our philosophy, we speak about this one life, one mind, one power, that there's a wholeness, there's a oneness to us. And out of this oneness, because of the unlimited potential and possibility that it is, and its desire to be creative, and its desire to be all love, it shows up in multiple ways. It shows up in this magnificent thing that we call the world and life, and in an expression of individual personalities. And then if that's the divine source, if that's the first cause, if that's the power that is behind each and every life, then every life, everybody must be that perfect expression of God, Spirit, whatever it is that you choose to call it, that is showing up in today's world, because it wants to have an experience. Now, as I try to understand this and I try to figure out, what's going on, I know that oftentimes we're faced with these, what seems to be contradictions in life, these paradoxes in life that shows up that says, well, if you say we're whole, perfect, and complete, then why is my experience not feeling like it's perfect and complete? And as I always say in the beginning when I do my welcoming introduction, because there's more yet to be done. There's more that we have to reveal. If in that mind of perfection, in that place of all things are divinely created in that perfect image, in that perfect way, then if you're there, then you don't need to have this experience. You don't desire to have this experience. But if we're here, then I believe we must have some desire to be in our personality, to be in our body, to be in our experience. And therefore, I think, we need to have that contradiction. We need to have that opposite. We need to have that difference in order for us to have the awareness. If you really want to experience joy, then it seems to me, and you can take this or not, but it seems to me that there must be an experience of sadness in order for us to recognize that we're having the joy. So one of the ways in which I'm always moving through this experience of life is being in gratitude for the wonderful things that I do have, and to be in the awareness of the things that show up in my life, the experiences and the things that maybe I don't have, are just that opportunity for me to recognize and to have that awareness that says, oh, okay, if I'm having an experience of illness, and I'm looking at that as an opportunity for me to reveal something, to know something greater, then I move out of the illness much quicker and much easier and in a greater way to move back into that place of feeling whole and perfect again. When I have a moment of sadness, I move through that moment and I get to that place of recognition that because I'm aware of that, because I've experienced that, because I'm recognizing that, then I'm able to know that there is that counterpart that says that there is joy. So I think that in Science of Mind, one of the things that often happens, and we get conflicted in this, is that we speak about this is a philosophy and it's a faith that speaks about healing all the time. Healing is one of the major components of our teaching. We're always in this place about there's so much to be healed, and we get confused with the idea that sometimes that means that we're going to create something physically that looks like whole, perfect, and complete, but that may not be the divine idea. I think the divine idea is more about having the multiplicity, having the diversity, having the individuality, having the expression of being who we are as each individual person, rather than all being alike or all looking the same or all, it's like, I think that would be a boring world. If that we were always in agreement and we always had, we always wanted the same thing, What fun would that be when you sat down to the buffet and everybody brought the same dish? It's like the idea that, we would cook up a little something a little bit different, that we would show up a little bit different, that we would have a difference of ideas and thoughts and our philosophy and the way that it shows up. To me, that's what makes the excitement and the energy and the adventure of being in this life. And yes, there are times when I'm really frustrated with the idea that people don't drive the way I think they should drive. That people don't show up the way that I think that they should show up, that they don't, do the things that I think they should be doing. But once I get past that and I get into the gratitude and the enjoyment and the adventure of the idea that they're unique in their own way, and that their expression and their experience is about their adventure not mine. And when I realized that what someone else is saying, what someone else is doing, how someone else is behaving, does not have to control my life and the way that I think it is. And this idea about the body, we don't have to be sorry. It says the body is not an apology. I don't have to be sorry about my body and the way that it is. I've really become quite enamored with myself and my body and the way that I show up. And that was not always true, because there were times when I didn't like it, I didn't love it, I didn't want it. I wanted to be something else. I wanted to be somebody else. And I realized that, and I heard this at a seminar someplace, it's like, you can't be somebody else in that wholeness in which they are, because they already have it. So this idea of trying to be somebody else, at best you can only be second, because they've already are them. The idea is being the best you, because nobody else can do that the way you can do it. Nobody else can be you the way you can be you. And so as I began to do the process and began to do the work, I began to love myself more for who I was. And when I started doing that, I started recognizing that things about me, things around me, things in my experience began to have more joy and more love, and there were more things then to be grateful for. And so it was like an ever-flowing thing. It was like I'd recognize something, beautiful about myself, because for a long time I struggled with the idea that I was losing my hair. And it was really frustrating. And then one day I came across a saying that said, that God created some, beautiful people with beautiful hair, and then he created people with beautiful heads. And I realized I really have a beautiful head that needs to be seen. You need to see this, because how grateful I am that I have that. So this way in which we look at ourselves, and it talks about in the reading, that our words, our actions, what we speak, it reflects back. It's a mirror of who we are. If you've ever stood in front of the mirror and you're trying to fix, the image in the mirror, the analogy of that is that it really begins here. It doesn't happen in the mirror. So much of what we are doing in life is just a reflection of our thoughts and our thinking. We look out there into the world and we see whatever we see in the world from where we are. But we think that it's because of them or they or something else. There's all sorts of ways in which we redirect our accountability and our responsibility by putting it on other people or other things or corporations or whatever you want to, your job, your work. I often hear, people, it's like, my relationship would be so much better if they would change. And it's like, but it's all about here. The physical world is a manifestation of what we as individuals and we as a collective human race, a species, is thinking. This is what we're thinking. So when we show up in the world, what we're thinking is manifesting out there. And if we're looking at that and we're thinking that that's the real world, then we only bring more of that into manifestation and into our experience. The reality is something deeper. The reality is something that is within your heart. It's within your soul. It's in the depth of your thoughts and your mind and what you're thinking. That's where reality is. All of this is an illusion that we have created, and it's real in that sense that we have created it, but it's not the real of who we are in the essence and the depth of our soul. So that's where we need to do the work. That's where we need to remind ourselves of who we are, that truly we are individualized expressions of spirit. That divine power, that pure presence that's wanting to have an experience manifests itself into our individual personalities. We are here representing the divine. How well are we doing that? How well do we show up as a representative of the divine? Especially when we're getting caught up in something about our physical body that we're trying to correct or make better or change or do, but we're not in that place of deep love of ourself, and I'm calling self, the higher self, that deep love of that divine presence that was within us. If we recognize that, if we anchor ourselves in that, if we call upon that, then that's what's going to show up more. And that's what we're talking about in this philosophy and in this faith of science of mind. That if you want some greater joy, if you want some greater love, if you want something greater in your life experience, then begin from that place within where you know that there is only true love, there is only truth, there is only wisdom, there is only wholeness, and begin to appreciate that, be grateful for that, and then it will begin to emanate itself and demonstrate itself and reveal itself into your physical experience and into your life. So we can let go of this idea that we need to be sorry for anything. We need to be responsible. We need to be accountable. We need to take action within our thoughts and our minds and our behavior. And as we do that, then there will be no cause for us to be sorry. There will be no cause for us to have to apologize, because we will have stepped out and we will have been accountable in the first place. That we recognize that we are here to represent that divine presence, to bring forth a greater experience. I think that it's become very apparent for me this week that there's a lot of healing that we can be doing for ourselves, for our beloved community, for our nation, for the world at large. And it has to begin with love. And we're going to do some big prayer work here today. We want to pray for Deandra. We want to pray for my husband Gary, who's going to have heart surgery on Valentine's Day. How appropriate is that? For John and Linda's father-in-law, they're making a decision about life in these places, and for so many others of you who have beloved ones. So for many of our congregants who are not here today because they're not able to be because of an illness or an injury or something. So there's work for us to do in consciousness. If you want to do physical work, then show up on the 22nd where we're going to do some landscaping. But every day, take some time out to do some work in consciousness, to do some work about bringing forth that experience of love. So I'm going to ask you if you'll just kind of bear with me here for a minute. We'll close with this. Let me find the affirmation. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. So if you'll give yourself a hug, hold yourself in love, recognize that this is your body. This is the vehicle by which your consciousness, your soul, your spirit is moving about in this world, in this time, in this place. And I want you to repeat after me, saying this to yourself. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. And so it is. So you've just made a new best friend today. It's you. You are your best friend. And I love you, and for each of you on Valentine's Day, I just give great gratitude for all that you are and for all that we are being here in our beloved community. Namaste.